Good evening and welcome. My name is Taylor Kingman, President of the Board of Trustees for the San Angelo Independent School District. I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting, as well as those who will be watching the recording online or on our public access channel. Today is December 15th. All items on tonight's agenda have been posted as required by state law, and most items have been discussed in our earlier pre-agenda workshop. As a board, our work includes setting goals, hearing reports from our superintendent, approving budgets, contracts, and personnel items, and making policy for the district. Please keep in mind that this is a meeting of the board held in public, not a public meeting. These proceedings are recorded and will become part of the district's permanent record. To help us maintain a clear recording, please refrain from speaking while others have the floor, and please silence your cell phones. Again, thank you for being here and your support of SAISD. We do have a quorum. Mrs. Mizell Flint is going to be unable to be with us this evening, and we will begin with the first item on our agenda, which is our invocation. And Pierce Love, lead pastor of students and families for the 456 Church, will be here to help us. 456, probably.
Let's pray. Father God, I thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and be in a room, God, that wants to pray to you, to come before you in the name of Jesus and proclaim truth. God, I pray over the volunteers in this room. I pray for those who pour into this community. God, I pray that you give them grace, that you give them wisdom, that you give them love and knowledge, God. And I pray that that can be executed with clear discernment within our community, within our schools, within our district here. God, I thank you so much for these students that we are recognizing this evening. God, I thank you for their hard work, for their mindset dedicated to excellence. And God, I pray that within their acknowledgments of their hard work and of their efforts here, God, that they might take that and that might be fuel to the fire to lead lives of excellence, God, to lead lives that ultimately, God, glorify and honor you. Jesus, I thank you so much for this community that I can be a part of, that I can see students grow, that I can see communities thrive. God, I pray that you continue to pour your Spirit into this place. And God, we know first and foremost that comes through the power of Jesus Christ. God, that during this season, as we celebrate Jesus born on earth, God with us, Emmanuel, that we can acknowledge the power of Jesus' life, of his death and of his resurrection, that through the cross, God, we have been freed from sin, and through the resurrection, we've been given new life. So Jesus, I pray at the core of all that we are, that we can desire to be people that know you, that love you, and live for you. Jesus, it's in your most precious and holy name that I pray. Amen.
All right. We have some students from Lamar Elementary to help us tonight. Sorrel Fowler, Shaylee Brown, Slayton Bishop, Hagen Hughes, and Adley Hughes, and they're going to help us with the pledges to the United States and Texas. So if everyone would please stand. And parents, if y'all want to take pictures, or principals, sir. All right, next on our agenda this evening is our recognitions. And first, we're going to recognize the College Board National Recognition Program honorees. And Timmy Heber's going to help us with that.
Yes. Hi, students. If you've received a first generation or a school recognized award, would you please come up here? If you're not sure, let me put that on the slide for you. Keep going. Right there. If you'll check the slide. And then if you're first gen, you should know, but it's the next slide. But let me give everybody a minute to look at that. Mm-hmm. Oh. First gen. I think they get so many awards, they don't know what they got. Okay, we are here to celebrate the 2024-2025 National Recognition and AP Scholar Program. When you guys look at the names on the slides, I want you to know there are some seniors on there as well. Remember, AP scores don't come out till the summer, so we didn't want them to be left out. So, all right, guys, we, just so you know, the audience knows and our community knows that to receive a national recognized program, to receive one of these awards, you have to have a cumulative GPA. Let me get to the slide here so you can read it too. You have to have a cumulative GPA of a 3.3 or 87% or higher. The School Recognized Award is awarded to students that score in the top 10% on the PSAT NMSQT at their high school. And First Generation Award is awarded to the student that scored in the top 10% among the Texas First Generation test takers. We don't have any rule or small this year, but you can also receive it if you earned a 3 or higher on 2 or more AP exams. So those of you that received, oh, sorry, y'all. I copied my papers back in front, not a good plan. We have 26 school recognition awards and 8 First Gen awards. So if you received the School Recognition Award, would you please step forward so we can get a picture and honor you? Parents, you can come up and take pictures as well. It's a lot of hard work right there, a lot of hours of study.
Parents, we're not going to let them go till everybody gets their picture, so you guys come on up and get close, no problem.
Okay, those of you that have the first generation, if you could stay, the rest of you can go back to your seat. If you forgot, if you're the first gen, there you go. Okay, so out of the 8, we have 4 here. So these are our first generation recognition, national recognition awards. Okay, thank you guys. Congratulations. Okay, our next are AP scholars with honors, with distinction, and AP scholars. So if you could come up here, if you forgot who you are, here's some lists of those names. Here's our scholar with distinction. Here's our scholars with honors. And then here's our AP scholars. Okay, so we are pleased to have 37 AP Scholar with distinction, 7 AP Scholar with honors, and 54 AP Scholar awards. But let me tell you what that means. So if you are an AP Scholar, you must have earned a 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. If you're an AP Scholar with honors, you had an average of at least a 3.25 across all AP exams, scoring 3 or higher on 4 or more exams. I love how, do you notice that they're watching? They don't even know why they got it. Y'all are fantastic. All right, AP Scholar with distinction. Achieve an average of 3.5 or higher on all exams with scores of 3 or higher on at least 5 exams. So give yourself like a big pat on the back, guys. Okay, let's get the AP Scholars to step forward. Here you are, and we'll take a picture of your cohort.
They're so good. You're not going to duck down again? That was pretty funny. Your back of your head's going to show them something on the top of your head.
There's a screen. I guarantee you, I'm too short. Tested it once.
Thank you, guys. Okay, our next one is AP Scholar with honors.
We're going to make any of y'all that are here shake hands, so you don't want to walk too far, Viv.
And now our AP Scholars with distinction. Oh, you need the list. There you go. I think everyone in this room does realize how hard an AP exam is. So big kudos to these students.
So any students that were part of the National Board Recognition Program or the AP Scholar Program, if y'all start over there and walk through and shake hands, we'd appreciate it.
I guess I just say thank you. Can I let him? Thank you, parents and students, for coming. If you'd like to stay for the whole board meeting, you are welcome, but if not, you can exit. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Drew. See ya. Congratulations. Way to go.
All right, next on our agenda is public comments. No one signed up for any public comments, so we will move forward. Next, we will actually go into closed session. This will be for consultation with legal counsel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071. Following legal consultation, the board will remain in closed session for a Level 3 employee grievance appeal pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.082. Thank you. We have returned from closed session. The time is now 7:33 p.m. Having heard the appeal, is there any further board discussion? Okay. Does any board member wish to take an action on the Level 3 grievance? I will make a motion. I first want to thank Mrs. Stump and for her participation. Sorry, I was looking for you. We do hear your concerns and we appreciate your time. Okay. With that, though, I move that the board uphold the Level 2 decision and the remedies previously granted. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion from myself and a second from Dr. Mills. Any further board discussion or questions? If all in favor say aye, aye, and then make sure you raise your hand. And all against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we're going to move on to item 8, which is conducting our Finance and Audit Committee workshop. And I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Dindal.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman. Our Finance and Audit Report begins this month on page 14 of your agenda. You can find on page 17, the report shows the unrestricted fund balance at the end of November of $4.892 million, which $4 million is in capital projects, which we'll see some of those projects starting to come to fruition later in our PO report. Also shows an unrestricted fund balance of $51,783,711 moving forward. There's no questions about those balances. We can move to page 20, which is our statement of revenues and expenditures. For the general account for the end of November, that's page 20. We're in the third month of the budget year, which should be about 25% of the total. Right now, revenues are clipping along at 23.8%, while expenditures are at 24.7%, and that is the general account for the end of November. If there are no questions about the statement of revenues and expenditures, we can move to the check register, which are on pages 21 through 38. There are no questions about that check register. We can move to page 39 through 43, which is our monthly investment report. Again, the district's total invested funds at the end of November were $469,461,829.42. The interest earned for the month was approximately $1.6 million, and the interest earned in the general fund was $222,599.09. Interest rates in the pools varied from 3.97 to 4.14%. Page 44 through 47 contains our quarterly investment report. Again, same funds invested. The total interest earned for the first quarter was $4,964,517.60. That report also includes some prior year's earning information. If there are no questions about either of the investment reports, we can move on to the tax collection report. Again, collections for October 2025 were 1.73%. Obviously, that's going to start to increase as we get to the end of the year, especially December and January. We'll see most of those, probably 90 to 95% of those funds come in at that time, and that will be the collection report for October 20. That'll be the collections for 2025 moving forward. There are no questions about that tax collection report. We can move to page 49 through 52, which are November POs over $20,000. Several of those POs have are funding the capital projects that we mentioned earlier, so that those restricted funds, as we pay that out, will come down in our restricted budget moving forward. And with that, Dr. Kingman, that concludes the finance report for this month.
Thank you, Mr. Dindal. All right, we're going to move forward with some information items. First up is our construction update and KFW, and Mr. Danheim, we're going to be here to help us. Brooks Weiner, appreciate you being here to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman. Mr. Brooks Weiner is here with KFW, and he's going to give us an update on the concession and parking lot expansion at Lakeview, softball, baseball.
Good evening, Dr. Moran and school board, and Dr. Brandon. We've been working on this preliminary schematic design for the concession building that'll be located at Lakeview High School, sort of in between the, as you can see there, the softball field, the baseball field, and the soccer and track field there. What we'll be doing, just go back real quick, sorry. Real quick, we'll just be expanding the parking lot. We'll be adding about 25 parking spaces there, funneling everyone into the that first little white square is the ticket booth, so everyone kind of funnels down to that ticket booth, and then they move to the, go through the gates to the, there's a concession building that we'll be showing you with the group restrooms as well as changing area for officials, and so it's that's kind of the collection point. So then if we go to the next one there, sorry. I only have 3 slides, so this is really kind of a moot point. Anyway, so there's an elevation view of the ticket booth, the smaller one there at the top, and then an elevation view of the concession building, at least the front elevation there. Again, you can just kind of see how the flow of folks will work. There's a little bit of a area for backup at the concession building for queuing, and then, at the ticket area, and then as well at the concession building, and then from there they can move on to the all the fields. And then here's a quick schematic floor plan of that concession building. You can see the main concession area will have 2 glass front drink fridges, a warmer for pizzas, burgers, and the like, and then a storage area with an ice maker and a freezer, group restrooms for the public, and then a private changing area for referees, umpires, and officials. And that's all 2,170 square feet of it. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Weiner. Anyone have any questions? And so just to clarify, so this concession stand and ticket office will work for both. The way you have it flows for the field. If it's used for sub-varsity, everyone comes in at that ticket booth and then walks back towards home base. Yes.
And everyone will park in that parking lot, and then they all funnel through the ticket booth, and there's 2 double gates on either side of that ticket booth. Once after they've gone, that's kind of your checkpoint. Once you go through there, then you go back around to either the left field side of the softball field or the right field side of the baseball field, or the track and soccer fields.
All right, Ms. Wayne, those two dressing rooms are officials' dressing rooms?
Yes, sir. Yes, those would be there, men's and women's. They'll
Okay.
have lockers, size of which we haven't quite yet determined, private restrooms, and then you can also see there, the official parking lot, they'll come in, actually, they park behind the outfield, and so there'll be a fence that kind of separates them from the general public for the most part, so they can kind of go in, have a little bit of privacy and security.
And it may be too early for you to tell me if the team dressing rooms are going to be on the main campus, like a visiting team dressing room? I know that's a little different.
That
for
would
us.
That would be the other.
It's gonna be the
Yeah, I
next
think
project?
that would likely be part of the overall the high school.
Okay, all right.
renovation,
All right,
yeah.
good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weiner.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right. We're going to table our update on academic programs till next week. Board team, you should get an email from Dr. Gomez, but she's ill, and I don't think she's ever called in sick ever. So we're going to let her do that tonight. Next, we're going to have demographic study update from Zonda.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Morant. Good to see everybody this evening. Back in West Texas for the first time in 15 years. And it was kind of fun. Good drive out. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. So we've been doing, wait, do I do this? All right. Zonda Demographics was formerly Templeton Demographics, if you've heard the name before. We've been around doing demographics and planning for school districts now for almost 20 years. We work with about 75 to 80 school districts in Texas, and now we've expanded and picked up a few out of Texas, but we're still homegrown. I want to talk a little bit about the economy. I'm not going to talk very much about it because I'm not an economist, but we just kind of want to look a little bit at just when our team goes in, the research team wants to understand the unemployment rates, just so we kind of know whether there's ways there that you can attract employers. Right now, your unemployment rate's sitting around 3.5, and you've stayed there. Full employment is generally considered 5%. So we're below full employment, and the reason they say full employment is 5% because if you're trying to attract new businesses, they want to know that there's a labor force there. So when that unemployment rate gets real low, that it can actually hurt you from the perspective of trying to gain jobs there. We then pulled deed transactions. What we've done is we pulled deed transactions for both existing homes and new homes historically, just to kind of look at the trends. And what you're seeing there is the last 5 years, we've seen a gradual slowdown, right, in turnover of homes. This is kind of, coordinating with the interest rates that went up. We saw strong interest rates, and we have all these folks that are in homes, but they don't want to leave because they're sitting on a 2 to 3% interest rate, and they double that, so they're going to get less house for their money. So it's taking a little time, but we are starting to see some momentum. There's some areas that we're going to show you here in a little bit of San Angelo that are seeing some small growth, and we're going to continue to see that. But it's really beginning to slow down. And that's not just here, but that's statewide. So we're seeing that housing market kind of trend backwards a little bit. Price point too, we've seen that price point go up from around $250 back in the 2020. Now a new home you'd be lucky to get for under $350 probably, and some of that new product that they're doing. Existing homes are still staying at that what I would call the new affordable, if you will, that $220 to $250 price point's a pretty affordable home in today's market. There's a lot on this slide, and I know you guys can check it out later. I'm just going to mention a couple things. Household size is one thing that we like to keep an eye on. You'll hear me talk about housing yield. That's a student yield, but household size is the number of persons per home. So, and you've been standard, it's 2.4, has been very standard, and San Angelo's been there, right there in that range for 20 or 30 years now. Households and housing units, so your household makeup is, that's your rental property versus owned properties there. That's 60-40, that stayed pretty traditional as well. I think what we've seen though is that, you've got 45,000 homes, you've got about 13,000 students. So that's an overall student yield of only 0.25. It's a really low student yield right now, and that's pretty common as well. What that means is you also have a little bit older community. So now your average age is getting close to 40, and students are having students. The homes are being created later. So the kids are having babies. I call them kids. I've got a 33-year-old kid, and they're just now starting to have children, right? So they're having children later, which is also delaying things. So we're watching that as well. But our team did go in and we looked at what development we could find. Right now we've got 9 active subdivisions, so that means they're active home building in 9 subdivisions, and of course, there's about 200 lots ready to be built on. We call those vacant developable lots. That means all the infrastructure's in place, everything's there, the road, the utilities, they can start a home tomorrow. So that's where we're sitting. But right now we're only seeing about probably less than 50 homes per year, new homes, in San Angelo. Now we also have futures. We have another 700 futures. So when I started looking at numbers for projections, I'm thinking 1,000 homes. So we got 1,000 homes that we know about right now that are going to get built. And now it's just trying to understand that pace, that how long are we going to stay at that 40 to 50? Could we get up to a higher number? What begins to happen to you've got a lot of competition then for new housing. And so they kind of, for lack of a better word, they kind of cannibalize off of each other. They can't all build 50 homes a year, so they're each going to be competing for the same buyer. So I don't know that my forecast is trending right at that 50. Probably about 50 homes a year would be pretty steady for you guys. I'm going to run through a couple of these slides, and you guys are seeing these right, because I know there's a lot of little print on some of them. I'm just going to run you through some. What our team does is we look at the development, and we've got some new satellite aerials. So these aerials that you see on the left side of each of these screens are just from last month, so they're very current. Arden Heights is one of the futures. If you see it in yellow, it's future. That means we know about it, but they haven't always filed a plat even. We don't know totally how many units there are going to be in some cases, but we know that there's going to be a development out there. And that's only 25 homes there at Arden. Baker Ranch, now this is 284 total lots, and they got 80 of those are futures, and you can see that area there on the left where they've been building homes, so things are pretty strong there. You see my yield there, 0.42. Is that 435? My eyes can't. I brought my iPad. I can't see it, so I'm just kind of pretending. But I'm glad you did that. Thank you. That 0.435. What that means is we're seeing about 4 students for every 10 homes that are built in that area, because that can give you an idea in your mind. Okay, when we get to 284 homes, then we're looking at about 55 students at build out, and about half of those are going to be elementary. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. And I won't go through all that with every one of these, but Brentwood Country Club, those estates, we have about 115 lots, and again, a yield of about 0.35. You see Crosswinds, that's one that's going to come on the radar. That's 41 total homes. No movement per the aerial there. It just looks like they've got the land ready, though. This is another one, the Enclave at Twin Oaks. You can see that they're going pretty quick there. We've got 18 vacant developed lots, but 4 homes under construction. So that, again, the VDL homes are ready, they're ready to be built in. And this research was done probably 6 weeks ago now. So some of those vacant developed lots some may already have sold, and they may have begun some more housing there. Meridian's another one with 73 total lots. The red dotted line that you see on that map, that's an attendance zone line. So that's something in the future you might want to look at, because when they start building, that development's going to be split between 2 attendance zones. So it might be something that you want to make an adjustment so we make sure that whole development goes to one school. Can you pronounce that? Pauline Park, how about there? Pauline Park got 80 total lots, 0.333 right now, but just 60 occupied homes, so it's going to finish pretty quick. Prestonwood Addition, 0.55. This is probably one of the higher yielding areas, but you can see the product there. It's a dense product there, and it's probably pretty affordable. They just have 2 homes under construction right now, but they have another 140 or so that will be built. And if you look behind that row of housing that you see there, that's where it's going to push out for the next phases. And Saddle Creek Park, just 7 total lots, but we didn't want to leave them out. Shriners Point, 137 homes. Those are nice Nice homes, good lots, good lot sizes there. Now we just have 13 occupied and a yield of about 0.4 there, so that's going to be pretty standard. Southland Hills, I promise we're almost done with these. 268 total lots, 190 of those are futures. That means they've dropped some lots. They'll see how those go, and then they'll add those futures as time goes. And so now we'll transition to multifamily. We do have about 6 multifamily projects that are in design stages. That just means that we know that they're going to happen. You know, we don't know the official numbers on some of these, but you have 2 projects under construction. One of those 30 units of them, though, are senior housing, so we're not going to see students there, probably. And then you've got about a few more units being built. We do have 1,233 students that reside within an apartment complex. That's a yield of 0.17, pretty standard yield. So that means you're getting about 2 students for every 10 units there. So let's transition to talking about projections. I'm going to start out by backing up to what the state's doing. Last year, the state just added 13,000 students statewide, and we did that 2 years in a row. Now, this followed COVID, when we saw a drop of over 120,000 students. The following year after COVID, we added about 50,000. We thought it would jump up a lot more, but if you remember that year right after COVID, there was another variant that came out that kind of slowed things down. So then the next year, we popped up to 90,000. From our perspective as demographers, we were like, okay, it's bouncing back. Here we go. And then last year, just 13,000. This year, just 13,000. So state enrollment, it has really slowed. And keep in mind that this does include charter schools, because charter schools report to TEA. So this is both brick and mortar ISDs and charter campuses. And the reason I mention that, I'm going to go into a little more detail in a slide or two. The enrollment decreased 1,570 students in your school district over this 5-year period. You've seen some shifting as well. The region's seen an enrollment decrease of 375 overall in the region. Charter schools, I want to mention these charters, and I'm going to talk a little bit about virtual as well. Charter schools added about 14,000 students last year, about 12,800, right in there. Well, if you remember, I said overall the state added 13,000. Well, almost all of that was in charters. So what we begin, the picture that's emerging is brick and mortar ISDs are declining. So we didn't even see growth at all in the state, especially if you look at virtual enrollment. Virtual enrollment increased by 15,000. So I've added that onto it. And so now I'm talking about the state likely declined in ISD enrollment, declined probably by almost 15,000 students. We're expecting statewide this year for enrollment to decline about 20,000. That's including charters. We think we're going to see a pretty sharp decline in enrollment. School of choice is becoming a real thing. A lot of homeschooling right now. We think the homeschooling sector's probably grown faster than any other sector right now. Statewide, we're seeing a lot of things happening. And of course, transfer students. I'm going to focus more. You do have about 82 students that transfer into San Angelo, but you can see that Hallsville, Fort Stockton, and the Collegiate Academy, those are all virtual campuses. Hallsville's way over in East Texas. Fort Stockton, we know where that is. So they're not, again, these are virtual campuses that are already set up within these school districts. Now you do lose about 1,300 students to the charter school there. The Texas Leadership School, and the Premier High School has some as well. So that's where you've got students that are living. When I talked about your 0.25 yield on that one slide, that probably jumps up to about 0.4 when you add in the students that are probably here but not necessarily attending San Angelo School District. We look at one more thing. It's called newcomers and leavers. Now this is our first year to do San Angelo, so we didn't have a lot of history. We only had one year of history. But what we look at there is we look at student IDs that were in your system last year but are not in the system this year. And we call those students a leaver. Now, those are students that are, first through 12th. Those are that would have been in last year's kindergarten through 11th. This year's first. Well, I actually pull out the 12th because we kind of hope that they all leave. But the first through 11th now, those are students that we should have had or we thought we would keep and we didn't. Last year, your leavers jumped up to 1,555. That's a difference of 613 from the newcomers. A lot of people don't realize how much fluctuation really does occur from one year to the other. And I said jump up to a 1555. It's kind of unfair since I don't have the year before that to see what your trend has been. But it's certainly a group, a target there that our team, I'm sure that your group, or we could provide the addresses of all those delete leavers, and that's a possible marketing tool too, that you can go back and see where they might be if you don't have codes. Student density, we got 279 students that reside outside the district, so those are students that are coming into the district for school, and then you've got about 2.2% of the student, that's about 2.2% of the population. Most of the rest of your student population lives right here in the city of San Angelo. So now I'm going to talk about the forecast. First thing I start with is projections for the kindergarten classes. So we look at zip codes that make up the school district. They don't exactly match. They weren't built that way, but we can look at, but that's the only geography, I stepped back. That's the only geography that the state provides data for births. So we have birth data, and then we look at enrollment in kindergarten 5 years later. So what you're seeing there is what I call a capture rate. So if we look at 2020, there were 1,421 births in the zip codes that primarily make up this area. 5 years later in 25, 26, you had 811 kindergarten students. That's about a 57% capture rate. You can see that we've kind of been trending down from 62 to 67 7 years ago. We've done, for this forecast, for my mid-range forecast, I've held you at 57. We really don't know where the bottom is in the state right now. We've seen drop in kindergarten enrollment throughout the state. Again, we're attributing most of that to virtual or homeschooling. More so than charters, I think those two are going to come to fruition. We're holding that down, so with some of the new growth that we're seeing from these births, I think that your kindergarten could get up to about 875 students. That'd be good news because kindergarten drives enrollment. You can see it here. Last year we dropped 492 students. Focus on the decimals that you see at the bottom there. Those are cohort change. That means how many first graders become second graders, second become third. So when that's not a 1 or higher, that means that we lost students there, okay? It might be a 98% capture rate. We start seeing some of those, what I call those capture rates as well, because we want to know how many of those second, third graders become third and fourth graders. And we use that for our forecast. So when I build my forecast, I look at kindergarten enrollment, and so right now in my mid-forecast scenario, I'm letting forecast stay at that 57% capture rate. And then we look at some history, because last year was a pretty sharp decline, but we don't kind of let 1 year become a trend. So my forecast is kind of and actually I worked with Bob Templeton on this. I said mine, but it's mine if we're perfect. It's Bob's if it comes in really far off, okay? Remember Bob Templeton, okay? What we've done here is we've kind of mitigated the damage from last year. We're saying last year was not what we're typically going to see in San Angelo. So we're showing negative change of about 200 students next year. You're going to continue to see that negative change for quite some time. I mean, we are adding. If we add 50 homes, you'd like to think we can get 20 or 30 students out of those new homes. But what happens is when your high school grades are declining, when you see those sharp drops there, we can have 1 or higher 99% capture rate, which is what we're doing for kindergarten through 8th. But in 9th grade and 10th grade, if you look at how many 9th graders become 10th become 11th, those numbers are pretty high. And that kind of is what keeps you from actually seeing some positive growth. And I want to share that with you because we are in this forecast showing about 30 to 40 new students each year coming into San Angelo, but because those last 4 grades kind of rob you of that overall growth, that begins to happen. We've got campus level projections here as well. The yellow highlights indicate areas that that are reaching capacity or over capacity at some of these campuses. You see there that Bonham's probably the one there with the most challenge right now. A couple of those, like Fannin, they're pretty high now, but we think that's going to drop back off because the exiting class sizes are quite a bit larger than some of the entering class sizes. The Carver, that's an automation from our system because we don't have a capacity for Carver. That's why that's yellow there. But we went ahead this year and did a low and a high scenario. Our company's not done that historically, but because of the historical declines that we're seeing statewide, we kind of wanted to see what it would look like if your kindergarten enrollment continues to decline. So we haven't found the bottoms. That bottom might be 0.55 or 0.54. That's what your low scenario is showing there. So next year's growth, it's about 400 students different than what our mid scenario is. That way we'd be looking at about 12,000 students next year. And then we put a high scenario in there too to even it out. I think the high scenario is a stretch. Right now, some big things would have to happen, but 3 or 4 years from now, the yields could increase, the housing pace could pick up, and something could change. But we want you to be aware of that. Again, we've seen a decrease in students, and that's going to continue. Enrollment's going to continue to decline, even though you're going to see some small bumps at the elementary level and some of the secondary level. We are going to see overall declines. Hoping we can settle in right around 11,000 students in 10 years. I talk kind of fast, I'm sorry. But I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you for driving over and helping us with this. Obviously, this was in our Friday Facts as well. Anyone have any questions for them? Thank you.
The average age of new home purchases is 40?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said the average age of new home purchases are 40-year-olds?
Well, it's actually, that might be correct. What I was saying, the average age in your area is sitting right around 38 now.
Okay. All right. And then we have the majority of them new homes being, I guess we're getting a large retirement community coming in as well.
There's some, yeah, we don't include that in our numbers.
Oh, okay. All
yeah. But you do have that.
Any other questions? Obviously, there's a lot of information here, and the importance of this information is when we're looking at long-term plans over the next several months. So appreciate you being here. Sure. I'm sure we can, if we have questions in the future, we can get you back out here, and thank you for
anytime
giving us the presentation and having that information available to us.
If it keeps you up at night, just give me a call and I'll try to help. All right? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Merry Christmas, all.
All right, next I'm going to move on to Dr. Moran.
All right, we got a
long-range plan discussion.
Yep, and my hope is to give the board really an overview of some of the discussions we've had this fall, and then kind of chart the course maybe and cast a vision. But really, this is all about transformation. We're going to start with some of the challenges, and if we can roll back maybe to the beginning of the presentation, we'll start with 4 things that I'm going to discuss today: challenges, current initiatives, decision points, and outcomes. And so we're going to begin with our challenges. And the board is fully aware of the academic challenges we face. I'm not going to read this to you, but you recognize the monitoring that TEA is engaged in with San Angelo ISD. I had the occasion to spend time one-on-one with the commissioner last week, and we discussed some of the things that we're doing academically to turn our district around. We're encouraged by that. We're looking forward to the middle of year benchmark scores in January, and we'll be bringing those to the board to report in. But the truth is, we as a district have struggled, and it's not just over recent times, but for some time, and we intend to fix that. Another challenge we face is declining enrollment. And you all have seen this. We just talked about it with Rocky Gardner and Templeton Zonda Demographics. We also discussed this last year as we talked about a bond and planning ahead, and we had projections from last year in the next slide that will show the low, moderate, and high projections as you've just seen with Zonda. The enrollment as of December the 8th is 12,378. To put that in perspective, when I arrived in this district 2 years ago, we had 774 more kids. In just 2 years, we've declined 774 kids. That's a Lone Star Middle School. So that puts it in perspective for us. And when we have declining enrollment, we know that we have reduced revenues. Dr. Brandon has talked to the board this fall just about we have budgeted conservatively. However, the next slide shows the student enrollment and the report that we can expect a budget shortfall this year. Even though we budgeted for a declining enrollment, it is declining at an accelerated rate this year. I think we're down 7% this year, if I remember correctly. And on top of that, one of our challenges is aging facilities. And so the board has seen the report from last year as we talked about bond work. You've seen the heat maps that Park Hill shared with us on the next slide. You've also seen the hammer charts that you'll see in the next 5 slides. And that shows the high school, the middle school, and all of the elementary schools and our support facilities and the needs that we have in our district. And to add insult to injury, we have staff shortages. And so we're working through staff shortages right now. We have current openings as of today that you'll notice on the next slide. You'll see manual trades. We have 27 current openings. Paraprofessionals, 21. We have 30 teaching openings right now. Most of those are covered by long-term subs, retiree hires, half-day people. But the point is, if those folks weren't there, we wouldn't have a teacher. So those jobs are open if we find a qualified teacher, and we're 10 administrators short right now. And that's just a reality. That's not just us, that's statewide. So the question is, now that I've kind of painted the ugly picture, the question is, what are we doing about it? And the current initiatives you'll see on the next slide show that we're doing a lot. We're supporting our teachers, we believe, through meaningful professional learning, providing resources, high-quality instructional materials. We're aligning our curriculum. We are engaged in the teacher incentive allotment, which you should see next fall, teachers receiving checks because of that. And we've started our Head Start program and worked towards that. We've also hardened our facilities for safety. The bond program is underway. We are looking at shuttering aging facilities that we're not using and consolidating elementary schools. So all of these discussions are going on. And you know from talking with Dr. Brandon, you've heard about the budget challenges, that we are having to reduce staff to reflect declining enrollment. Our staffing takes about 83% of our annual budget. We are looking to reduce utility costs as we close facilities. That will reduce property casualty insurance. We'll need fewer SROs because we'll have fewer campuses. And so we have some decision points as a community. And this is where I'd like to slow down and just really focus in on the work to be done. Because beginning with the end in mind, we talked about, because of our declining enrollment, because of our staff shortages, because of our academic challenges, we're going to need to reduce our elementary schools at least to 12. We're at 14 this year. We talked about a goal of the fall of 2027, having 12 elementaries. So the question is, working backwards, what needs to be done? Well, we need to identify which elementary campuses that we're going to need to close. And so in the next month, we're going to bring the board some recommendations and options for you to consider. We're going to give you that information ahead of time, so there's no surprises, obviously. But we want to make sure that we are transparent with our community, that we plan ahead. We need a good plan so that we land and we land well, not just clawing our way through and trying to survive, but executing a strategic plan to keep our district afloat academically, financially, and otherwise. So as we talk about closing elementaries, we're going to be bringing to you a number of things to think about: capacity, age of a facility, the ability to expand, the current condition of the facility. All of those things will go into helping us decide. And once we've decided as a board, what we'd like to do is talk about a timeline. What timeline should we consider closing those two campuses? And it may be, if declining enrollment continues, that we as a board look at it and say we need to close more than two. I don't really think I'd like to do that, but that we need to at least be aware that declining enrollment could dictate some things, and it is. And so at least two elementaries need to be closed, and when we do that, the timeline of closing those is either sooner or later. If it's sooner, then we feel like we're rushing our community a little bit, because I want you to think about this. If we charge, and Ms. Singleton, if you go back to the decision point slide, if we charge our community with coming up with attendance zones for 12 elementary schools, but they don't know which two are closing, they can't do their work. They don't know how to create equitable and effective attendance zones. So we're going to have to decide which two to close, and then talk about a timeline of closing those, and charge our community committee with coming up with options that they can present to the board. And this committee is really about academic stewardship and efficiency. And if we can focus in on those and be subjective, I think we can provide you, the board, with good guidance and good recommendations so that you can make good decisions for the community. And then once we establish those zones, I think we should give our parents at best a year. It'd be nice to have a year to plan for that, because that's going to generate discussions about how we handle kids who are currently at one elementary that are now going to have to go to another elementary, and how we work through that. But giving parents a year's heads up, I think is really important. Well, that means that we need to be giving you attendance zones by this summer. That means that we need to engage in the attendance boundary work this spring, and that means we need to decide which elementary campuses to close pretty quickly. And so by doing that, next fall we'll be able to talk to our community about which elementaries are closing, which attendance zones are set, and parents can plan for that, and we can work through all of the processes that will be necessary to engage in a complete reset and really a transformation. By doing this, what we'll do is we'll fill the campuses up with kids who live in the zone. We'll allow campus principals the authority to be able to handle the kids that live there and not compete with transfers in and out of their schools, and really not knowing who they're going to have. And so the outcomes are good. We can have greater academic achievement, get out of trouble with TEA academically, have safer campuses, stronger teaching teams, higher teacher retention, fewer employee vacancies, effective long-range budgeting, and greater stewardship of our taxpayer resources. And so really this whole fall we've been talking to you about all these things that are leading up to things that we as a board are going to have to decide. And these are not easy decisions, but they are decisions that are necessary. And so at this point I'll pass it to Dr. Kingman and open it up for questions if you have any.
So obviously some of this was in our Friday facts as well, Friday facts as well. Just to clarify what I think I'm hearing on timeline for our parents and administrators and everyone else, and for board as well. What Dr. Moran is saying is by determining what schools will close soon, that doesn't mean that they will close this coming August.
That's correct.
They would close at the time of the rezoning.
Yes, the fall of 27.
So the fall of 27. So we would be able to no school would close prior to the process of rezoning and closures all sequence at once, so students don't have to move multiple times, teachers don't have to move multiple times, administrators don't have to move multiple times, support staff doesn't have to move multiple times, but to where, as a district, we look at how to make sure we are providing each student in our district all the resources possible for them, and if we are stretched too thin. We've talked before about the average size elementary schools in how TA funds schools in our size of elementary schools, that if we don't figure out a way to do this, then we're robbing the kids that are in each of these campuses because we're not able to give the resources necessary to support our kids. If we can't figure out how to make these campuses the right size. If they were built for a district that was projected to have 18,000 20 years ago and now has 11,000, that's a reality, and we can't just pretend it's not a reality, and we have to come up with a solution that fosters growth in the district so that, to Dr. Moran's point, we have to get our outcomes, all of them, better, and to do that we have to make some tough decisions. So I just wanted to clarify that timeline.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. I should have stated that. But yeah, and one thing that the board should keep in mind is that as we declining in enrollment, we recognize that we are going to be facing a budget shortfall. And so, the temptation is and was, as we talked about this earlier this fall behind closed doors in our cabinet meetings, is we probably need to close schools sooner than later. But is that fair to the community? Is that the right thing to do? So there's going to be this push and pull of we need to close, but we also want to treat our community and families right and take our time and be methodical and get it right. But by doing that, we're going to face a budget shortfall. It's going to happen. And so just be prepared for that discussion as well.
So, because I'll make sure I'm on the right page, as of right now, 26-27 school year, which is the next school year, everything will be the same as far as schools.
The plan is to keep everybody the same until the fall of 27, unless the board, through discussion, decides that it should be different. But that's where we are right now. And really, it's out of respect for our parents and our kids, our staff. We want to make sure that we're methodical and we get this attendance boundary work done right and communicate it well and give parents time to plan for the change.
And Dr. Moran, just on our bond update, I know we didn't get it tonight, but on our pre-agenda, by August of 27, our elementary expansions should be finished.
That's right.
By August of 27.
Yeah.
Everything that was bond approved to right-size our elementaries would be finished by that time.
Yeah, McGill and Fannin should be done. Crockett's going to be done earlier. But that was another thing. The question that we asked the Park Hill a couple of times is, are you sure it'll be done in August of this year? And we hope that that's the case, but we all know how that works. And this is, again, out of respect for our teaching staff. We don't want to finish that building August the 1st and expect to move in and start school 2 weeks later. That's a tough ask. And so we're trying to be a little more methodical and thoughtful about planning to get things right, make sure that we treat our staff. But the reality is it'll mean a budget shortfall, and staffing will still be a challenge.
And when Dr. Moran's talking about budget shortfall, just to make sure I'm on understanding, that would be when we go make next year's budget. Our budget, we've been able to do a balanced budget, and we've had health insurance or Christmas bonus or whatever in there, that trying to make that a balanced budget, we obviously will have to have a projection of how to, we long-term have to have balanced budgets in this district or we can't continue to exist. But we'll have to look at how we are creative about a year where we know where, I think the projection is $900,000 for closing of an elementary school. That's what we found with Altaloma. Where we know there's some money that gets reallocated to where people don't lose their jobs and people and students get served with the same or more robust support, but it's right sized to the actual size of our district. But to give those supports, which we desperately need when we have 6 campuses, and we'll have to figure out a way as a board to continue those supports for a year in the interim if we doing it this way. But we can't stop those supports or we'll have other problems.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment to reiterate the point that Dr. Keeman made, that obviously a lot of this is, and Dr. Moran mentioned this, well, a lot of this is guided by trying to be efficient from a financial standpoint, but also, excuse me, and also we're not necessarily doing right by these kids by having them in schools designed for 600 people when there's 250 people in there. They're not functioning as built or intended, and especially when you compound that with aging facilities that are outdated and need updating. Ultimately, we're doing this to save money and be more efficient, but we also want to improve the product and make sure that we're doing a better job of teaching these kids and doing it with the facilities the way that they're really, the occupancy that they're designed to have. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Other questions for Dr. Moran or comments? Obviously, this will continue to be a topic we go through, and as a board, we'll have to sit and work through this and make sure that we do this systematically so that we do end up with a product that actually provides the product that we want for our children and for all the children in San Angelo, because they deserve it. So, all right. I'm going to take some leeway, if it's okay with the board. I'm going to move action item E up to our next topic, and that's consider authorizing the superintendent to negotiate design build contract with E3 Integral Solutions. I know y'all been here for a while this evening, so I just want to move y'all up. And so, Dr. Brandon, sorry about no heads up, but we're doing it.
You're good. They've been very patient. So we're Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, Board of Trustees, we're pleased to have with us this evening several representatives from E3. Lance, certainly probably familiar to many of our board members, but I'm going to have them come up. I'm not sure who's doing the presentation, but I'll let y'all introduce yourselves, and so the board will. We've got the district has a long-standing history relationship with E3, several different projects, HVAC and LED lighting. They've done a great job. We've appreciated the time that we've spent in developing the scope of our HVAC projects and controls, electrical panels, so they can walk you through that.
Thank you. Dr. Moran, members of the board, Dr. Brandon, it is an honor to be here. As you mentioned, this is not my first rodeo with your district, and anyone who's hung out long enough with me has heard about San Angelo ISD. Over my long career, I have worked with districts across 9 different states, and I always point to this district. When you look from top to bottom, the professionalism of the staff, the administration, and just sitting in your board meetings and watching the interactions between you guys and your staff is it's top notch. So kudos to you guys for that. I'm pleased to be joined by a couple of wonderful gentlemen. Colton Hendricks is our lead design engineer. He's done a lot of work with he and his team to put together the design that you're going to look at tonight. And then we're being graced with the president of our company, Josh Combs. Glad that he was able to be here as well. So I know this is probably hard to see. I don't know if you probably can't section that off, can you?
We have it at our desk, Lance.
You've already got it there? Okay. Looking at the top portion, the base project, this is the RFQ for design build that was put out over the summer, and it consists of three main scopes of work. The first being the HVAC system retrofits. We obviously, looking at the districts that were included in this scope, you can see there's 1,538 tons of heating and cooling involved at these districts. And so we're going to, and we were really looking at targeting, the district wanted all those units that are 15 years and over that are beyond their life expectancy were targeted. The second scope of work is the controls retrofit. That is retrofitting your controls across the district. We did a pilot project this summer at Tucker, and it went very well. The energy managers and even maintenance have said that it's been very good with regards to how those were operating and continue to operate well. The third one is the electrical panel upgrade. The switchgear at Oaks is very old and needed to be replaced, and there's a number of Federal Pacific panels across the other Lone Star, Middle, San Angelo Stadium, and Santa Rita Elementary that are going to be replaced as well. The original budget estimate for that when the RFQ went out was $22 million, and the price for that is $615,596. So what this did is this really is we came on into your district and walked your campuses. We're doing controls everywhere, so we did a full mechanical scope. And administration realized that there's some other buildings that need to be addressed. And that's what you're going to see down in the additional projects at Central, Bonham, and Crockett Elementary and Glenmore Elementary. That's an additional 861 tons of heating and cooling that will be taken care of there. If you look at Crockett and Glenmore Elementaries, there are a number of units that are sitting at 14 years. By the time we get around to replacing those, they're going to be 15 years old as well. So they wanted those included. So of the original $22 million in the budget, after you add the owner contingency of $150,000, we're looking at $19,900,292. And on the alternative project on the bottom, over at Lakeview, we don't have all the full scope worked out and the design worked out there, but that's something that the district or the administration wanted to look at being able to handle, after the holidays into the new year.
And I'll speak to that just a little bit. With the design by Park Hill at Lakeview, we just want to make sure that we don't double any units. So once we have a complete scope of work from Park Hill Architects on Lakeview, then E3 will come in behind them and will take off any units that are being replaced by Park Hill. And then we look for that number to fall under the 1.8. We just don't want to do two scopes at the moment when we can come back and add that project as soon as we have that from Park Hill.
But that's all I have, so open it up for questions.
I have a fairly simple question. I appreciate you guys for being here. So, and ignore my ignorance, but what is the benefit of doing all these units all at once versus just earmarking the money and then replacing them as they fail?
That's a great point, and I don't want to be the only one talking, so I'm going to turn it over. You want to handle that? Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, excellent question. And I wanted to share something with you guys tonight on this project in particular. Of course, E3 does projects all throughout the state of Texas. We've worked with dozens and dozens of school districts and occupied facilities. This project in particular, we probably got the best pricing on HVAC equipment that I've seen in 5 years. And as you guys have probably seen or heard, the cost of construction and especially the cost of equipment has gone up dramatically. You guys have gotten a phenomenal price on this project, and that's driven absolutely because of the size of the project. So there really are significant cost efficiencies, and as you all know, inflation continues on. That's a big deal. One of the other significant things for school districts, especially in the maintenance staff, is getting uniformity of equipment so that they can maintain it well. They can stock parts, filters, everything they need to execute their job with excellence. So those are some of the primary benefits of doing the project all at once.
Cost savings for cranes and everything, too.
Sure, yeah, lifts, everything, on and on, project management, et cetera, et cetera. Sure.
Excellent, thank you.
This may be a Dr. Brandon question, but y'all too, because y'all have looked at it all. So obviously our goal with the allocation during the bond was to get to where we could then, our outdated infrastructure, so everything 15 years and older, replace it, get it right. And then as you're looking at our HVACs that are 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, what happens when we replace all these at once? What happens to us 15 years down the road as far as replacing them, and how do we make sure we have a plan to keep those, to do that on a staggered way if we don't pass another bond?
So from a district perspective, we'll have to make sure on our 5-year replacement cycle that we have that covered. One of the things that Mr. Kennedy and his team has been doing is we've closed campuses. We've gone in and removed any units that are, less than 5 years old. So by the same token, when Glenn is redone, any units that are probably less than 10 at that point we'll pull for other units to replace. So as E3 moves out, Tony and I have had the conversation that we'll begin to replace those that begin to hit 14 and 15 2 years out. So mostly, it's on us to make sure that we've got that replacement cycle, and then the district has always been good in developing over the summer an amount of money to go into HVAC. We've seen that over the last 3 years, be up around $1 million to where we're going to replace a certain number of units every year. What this does, we never could have got there without the bond, honestly. But once you get this many units replaced, it puts us in a position that we actually could do a replacement cycle by campus each year and then stay on pace.
Yeah, and Dr. Brandon, if you don't mind, let me add a little bit to that. Having been in this industry for about 25 years and watching school districts, and it really fascinating information on the demographics today, it's very hard to predict what's going to happen in 15 years, right? I don't think 15 years ago anybody would have predicted the decline in enrollment that we're seeing, which is not driven by this school district. It's driven by dynamics that are outside, in many ways, of your control. I think that I see a lot of school districts today, more and more and more, addressing aging infrastructure from almost a maintenance perspective, a maintenance replacement perspective through bonds. And that's driven because, as you all know very well, the allotment, the financial allotment per student has been stagnant. And so costs are going out the roof, and your dollars are not following that. And so maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago, there were school districts that were able to replace their HVAC equipment by budgeting it in their M&O budget. Today, that's not happening very often. So you guys are not alone in that. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't try to replace what you can, but what it probably does mean for you and most school districts in the state, they're going to have to continue to pass bonds down the road to address these problems, unless something, of course, changes on the way money's allotted to school districts.
Other questions for E3 or administration?
Just what's the timeline? Like, how long will it take to do the whole project?
Yeah. Thought we're 620. No, it changed. Okay.
You want me to take that one?
Sure, I guess so.
So we're looking to have in the contract 575 calendar days. Now that is unlikely to take that long. There's usually things in a project like this related to controls that take a little while to sort out some of the bugs. We will try to get a big chunk of this project executed this coming summer, because that's the best time for you, and that's the best time for us. However, E3 always works on projects as possible. So any break, potential long weekends, spring break, Christmas break, we will be working to execute this project as fast as we can.
Thank you.
And just from an admin level, when we look at this project and we just talk about closing elementaries, et cetera, it's in this that we can exclude those things if we end up deciding we're not going to go replace panels on something we're closing a year later.
Yeah, we're going to be coordinating that, obviously, and so that's even more reason for us to make some decisions like that. But yes, coordination.
All right. Other questions, comments?
Dr. Kingman, I know that we worked with E3 in the past, and it's been a fruitful relationship between SISD and E3. They've done some projects, some fairly large projects for us in AC replacement, HVAC replacement in the past that have gone very smoothly. Controls switchover has been smooth, so I'm not sure if there are any more questions or comments, but with that, I'd like to move the board to delegate authority on the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute Exhibit A of the AIA Document 141 with E3 for the design build of district-wide HVAC controls, HVAC equipment, and electrical upgrades as presented by the administration with a stipulated sum of $19,900,292, including a $150,000 owner contingency. And I further move the board to authorize the superintendent or his designee to negotiate and execute a contract amendment of the AIA Document 141 with E3 to amend the scope of work to include the HVAC replacement on the Lakeview High School in the amount not to exceed $1,881,150.
So I have a motion from Mr. Dindal. Do I have a second? I will second. Do any further board questions or comments?
Again, Dr. Kingman, a buy of this size for a company does create an economy of scale where we can come in with some fairly good prices on some AC units. And I can tell you that right now the price of equipment or hard goods in the trades continues to build. One, because of just the general situation of the economy, and two, because we can continue to lose smaller vendors to just attrition, and so the market becomes smaller as far as vendors become available to supply specific product.
One thing I want to say is, this is something we told our community we were going to do with the bond project, and to have, and I appreciate E3, y'all working so quickly to get this done, because obviously we didn't want to spend any money on it before the bond passed. So we appreciate the fact that y'all have gotten those things done so that really 12 months after the bond passed, we can be working in our schools to get this done, and that's pretty amazing. So thank you all for y'all's hard work to get that done quickly so that we can start getting that done and getting the projects we promised the community we were going to do with the bond done. And thank you to our admin team for doing that as well.
It's again momentous because we've been spending $2-3 million a year in worst to first projects, taking care of the older schools, the real old schools that have units 25, 26 years old because they have reached their lifespan. And so this will not give us a break, but it will give us the opportunity to again budget some of that amount to continue to upgrade those systems as we move forward. We have a chunk of these schools that are in need of replacement now.
All right, so hearing no further board comment, I have a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from myself. All in favor say aye with a lift of their hand. Aye. All against say the same. All right, motion passes 6-0. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
All right. Bear with me. We're going to go back to consent items now. And so that's item 10. And we have minutes for our November 10th and November 17th pre-agenda and regular board meeting. We have a bid on our curriculum and instructional materials. There's an added bid 2518, which was discussed. The cooperative purchasing organizations, bid 25-015, which is a maintenance, transportation, and miscellaneous supplies, and then library books, which is going to be kind of a continual thing for us with the new state legislature. We will continue to be getting that and posting that on our website, and then working through that each and every month, at least for the foreseeable future. Any board questions or comments regarding consent items A through E? Do I have a motion to approve consent items A through E?
Make a motion to approve consent items A through E.
So I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Dr. Mills. Any further board comments or questions? And again, with an aye and a raise of hand, anyone who's in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. All right. Next, we're going to move on to our action items. First, we have our bills and accounts. Let me get to that right page, but this 81. Sorry. So these are the bills and accounts and financial statements for our November. Do I have a motion to approve the bills, accounts, and financial statements for November 2025?
Dr. Keeman, earlier in this meeting, we did review synops of the bills and accounts and financial statements for November 2025. In addition to that, all these reports can be found in their entirety online at our website, SAISD, under a sub-tab called Financial Responsibility. And with that, I'd move to approve the bills and accounts and financial statements for November 2025.
Do I have a second? So a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mrs. Duncan. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Now we have our quarterly investments. We've also just discussed this, so.
Again, Dr. Kingman, we also discussed this earlier in our meeting, moving forward. And again, this report can also be found online, SISD.org, under the tab Financial Responsibility. Usually included under the bills and accounts, but move to approve the quarterly investment report ending November 30th, 2025.
I have a motion from Mr. Dindal. Do I have a second? Second. A second from Mrs. Duncan. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. Motion approved. So I didn't raise my hand, sorry. Motion approved 6-0. All right, next. Donations, and we're going to figure out a cleaner way to do this. But we're still working with the new state law, so I promise we're going to come up with a cleaner way to do this. Do I have a motion to approve the donations as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the donations as presented.
A motion from Dr. Mills. Do I have a second? And a second from Mrs. Duncan. Any further board questions or comments on donations? All in favor say aye. Aye. Gerard, raise your hand. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. So we're going to get used to doing that too. All right. Next, Dr. Brandon, we're going to consider an interlocal agreement for inter-district transportation.
Dr. Keeman, Board of Trustees, this item probably needs a little introduction, seeing as it was tabled a month ago. As we talked through the situation, there are a lot of components to Senate Bill 204, and certainly some of the things that we have learned over that time period is it was created that if a school district agrees to not have any stipulation on students transferring in their district, come one, come all, and they post that on their website and they follow that transfer policy, they are not required to request the interlocal agreement. If a school district is going to post parameters for entrance into their district, they do have to reach out to a school district to request that interlocal agreement. So we have spoken to Cristobal ISD superintendent, and they did request that this remain on the agenda for this evening. for the board to consider. And I'd be glad to answer any questions. I believe sent most of the items, most of the facts around the case and what we were referenced back to from legal counsel, so that we knew we were taking the appropriate steps and measures. And so glad to entertain any questions or comments.
So I just want to reiterate, if a district had no parameters on who could transfer to them, they wouldn't need this agreement, correct? They
Correct.
could just put buses into a neighboring district, whatever district it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is only the fact that Cristobal ISD wants to have the ability to have parameters on transfers that are accepted into Cristobal from outside that is required in this agreement.
Correct.
Okay.
What parameters are those usually? Is it the ones that you have listed right here?
Yes, sir. Yeah, steps A and B, and then the sub-bullets, I, double I, and triple I, in each one of those. You can kind of tell, honestly, I think the legislature was trying to open up choice when they did this, as long as the school was not going to put any barriers against a student coming into the district, then they were going to help them find a way to get there. So
without an interlocal agreement, like I said, without one, could they come in and get kids?
They cannot.
They cannot. And
If their transfer policy states, we're going to, for example, say, we're going to check your grades, your attendance, and your discipline. Fairly standard for most districts. If they're going to check any of those to allow a transfer, if that's going to be a prerequisite or criteria
so pick
to
and
get
choose.
in.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right.
allow them to pick and choose.
Right. Then
If you're going to pick one up, you're going to pick them all up, the
Right.
ones that, regardless. Okay.
then they will not be able to pick the students up within the district.
Any other further board questions or comments? So, I mean, me personally, I've wrestled with this because there is a reality of ADA and our decreasing attendance, and but I also, in some ways, it's easy for me because my wife and I have already decided that the best place in San Angelo and the surrounding area for our kids to be in school is San Angelo ISD, and we don't really have any concerns about that. And so, but I'm not, where I do have concerns is if the state legislature is opening up to let it for parent choice, like, is it really our board's job to prevent a parent from being able to put their kid in school where they want to put their kid in school? And I may not agree with where they think they should be putting their kid in school, but it's still, they're the parent who gets to choose that. And whether or not that's my job as a member of the San Angelo Independent School District to tell them they can or cannot put their kid in and then have their kid bus to that when the state legislature has opened that up for public schools across the state. You know, that, I think that's, you know, I do have some concern about that. So,
And if I can make a comment, you know, one of the discussion points that we had was who's going to police this?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
if a bus
exactly.
goes into another district, picks kids up, I mean, I want to maintain good relationships with our neighbors. I don't know what their transfer policies are. I don't look at their website to investigate how they manage their transfer students. So whether this is approved or not, you know, I still ask the question, who's going to police it? And if someone violates that, then what? You know, so I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and like Dr. Kingman said, you know, my concern since 2017 has been the ADA effect on our school district, because, you know, that's money out of our school district when they move over there or wherever they're going. And that's why I asked back in 2017, I said, look, we're losing kids. I mean, you had schools, I mean, districts coming in here and just taking kids. And I remember asking that question, is there anything we can do about that? They said, well, it was brought up to the AG, but he just never had an answer to it. So he finally provided one this year. But You know, I think I've said this before to Dr. Kingman and everybody, but, you know, west of I-35 out here, you got to do what you can to keep your kids. You do, because, I mean, you know, you're losing kids left and right. We were doing that back in 2013, and it's just the same, you know, you start losing them left and right, and you got to do what you can to keep them. And it's hard, because east of I-35, you know, I mean, you lose 50 kids, you're going to gain them again the next year, you know, because, I mean, they got so many, like Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, you know, they don't worry about that. Well, apparently they did in Gatesville, and, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, that's my concern is the ADA, is the funding. It is the funding. Because I think, what is it, Merle? How much is it per student?
Well, the state was $62.55, but
$62.55 per student.
you know,
I mean, you're losing that, you know.
So obviously it's something that's been wrestled in front of boards, you know, as far as to your point, like with your kids, like do you make a rule you can't enforce? That's hard to do. And then, you know, the reality, you know, my solution is that San Angelo ISD is so good and it's performing so well that no one wants to transfer to a smaller district unless maybe they just want to have a smaller campus or whatever. And that's personal, and that's a parent's choice. Mm-hmm. But that our product is so good, like, I think the way you fight this is with your product, and with great teachers and great campuses, and by doing that, you fight off the ADA loss because you're doing better than you've previously done. So that's how I think about how we should, and then you're still being good neighbors. You're just out competing them. And you're still being a good neighbor. You're still letting them do what they want to do for their school district, but you're performing it. You're producing a better product. So I will make a motion, because I know Gerard will still love me afterwards, that we approve a interlocal agreement between San Angelo ISD and Cristobal ISD in regards to implementation of Senate Bill 204. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. And I'd like to say, I totally understand what you're saying, Mr. Gallegos, but I don't think necessarily I want to be involved with either coercing parents in a subtle way to put their kids here if they don't feel like this is the best place for them. Whether I agree with their decision or not, I don't know if that's something I would want to do.
Well, and like I said, I'm not trying to coerce parents to make them leave their kids here, but I just like Dr. Moran said, there's no teeth to that law. Okay, there's no teeth to it, and you know. But you're right. Yeah, if they want to move them, they can move them. But I just don't understand why you put something in place, but then you can't do anything about it. Yeah. But that's just how I've always felt about it.
So I have a motion for myself and a second from Dr. Mills. Any further board comments or questions? So all in favor, and keep your hands up for a second so I make sure I look everywhere, sorry. All in favor say aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 5-1. All right. Next, we're going to go to item F, which is TASB policy update 126, and I think Dr. Moran's going to present this. Obviously, this is what we discussed at our
You bet.
agenda.
Well, this really isn't much of a presentation because you've seen the policies. You know, we've reviewed those, we've poured through those. There's nothing there right now that would cause me pause except to recommend to you all to adopt policy update 126 as presented this evening.
Any questions or comments? We obviously talked about this at our pre-agenda, and you know, there's a lot of this that comes out of the legislature, recent legislature, and a lot of these are things that theoretically should be policy as of September 1, and so we got to get these things done so that we're in compliance with the state. Any questions or comments?
Dr. Kingman, we had significant conversation during our pre-agenda meeting about several of the policies, the semantics, some of the wording, some of the subtle changes that were out there, and so did a pretty good deep dive into that. So with that, I'd recommend the board add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by the TASB Policy Service. And according to the instruction sheet for TASB, localized policy manual update 126.
So I have a motion from Mr. Dindal. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ladies first. We'll have a second from Mrs. Duncan. You did press your microphone, though. Any other board questions or comments? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Hey, everyone, raise your hand. All against, say the same. Otherwise, we're going to do a roll call. I'm going to follow the law. All right. Next, we're going to go to item G, which is consider the 26-27 school calendar, and everyone should have a copy of that at their desktop. And I'm going to let Dr. Moran.
All right, I'd like to draw your attention to calendar option C, which we think is a happy medium after discussion, and really most of that revolved around November 9th, the week of Veterans Day. So our recommendation tonight to the board is to adopt option C, which gives that Monday to recognize that day, but yet it's not in the middle of the week. And so we will feel a lot better about student attendance that week, but it preserves everything else. You'll notice the first day of school is August the 13th. That's a Thursday, and that's typically what we've done, a Thursday, Friday. And then if you'll look in May, you'll notice that the last day of school is the 21st. Graduation is the following day, the Saturday the 22nd, and that concludes the school year prior to Memorial Day. Thank you.
Any comments or questions regarding the school calendar, which we also discussed last week?
I appreciate the work that went into Calendar C. I think that the Veterans Day, not in the middle of the week, is a good thing, and Easter. And I also want to go back to, because I thought this was a big thing for teachers and everyone to know, because we talk about spring break and then Easter, and then as an educator out there, we talk about the long haul, and the long haul is from spring break to the end of school. And that's a tough time because it is spring. We're at the end, we're tired, but it was eye-opening to know why there is no holiday in April, and that was because every single day in April is a testing day, and the state tells us those days. They're not optional, so we, of course, have to be at school when kids are being tested. So if no one else has a comment, I'll make a motion to approve the San Angelo Independent School Calendar 26-27 option C.
So I have a motion from Mrs. Duncan regarding option C.
Second.
And I have a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, our announcements. We'll have our finance and pre-agenda workshop on January 12th and our regular board meeting on January 20th. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.